And, I'm calling this video Nice Girls Finish Last, in quotations. And, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of opinions about the angry black woman, right? Which is, in many ways, a stereotype. And there's not a lot out there about the other side of that coin, which is the nice black woman. And so I kind of want to shed some light on the nice girl story and just kind of share some things about my own experiences, my life, and kind of where my head is at around this entire topic. So let me just get started. So keep in mind that a lot of the topics that I'm discussing here is kind of like my first time talking about these things out loud. In many ways, it's my first time really expressing myself around this topic. I delve into some of these things in my book, but maybe not as as much detail. So just bear with me as I'm doing my best to try to explain what I mean. And so this topic is not about being a pushover. This topic is not about necessarily being weak. When I say nice girl, I just want to make that clarification. I'm not talking about someone who is dumb or just, completely has absolutely no boundaries. That's not what I'm talking about. And what I have personally struggled with is being called nice, most of my life, or, a lot of people refer to me as a nice person, of which I agree. However, one of the things about being called nice, to me, I'm always kind of like, well, what does that mean? I'm kind of questioning, what does that mean to the person who's saying that to me? Because I think that oftentimes nice can mean so many things that it ends up meaning almost nothing. And so like if someone says, oh, you're so nice, in my mind, I'm wondering, well, are they saying I'm pleasant and kind? Or are they saying I'm very vulnerable? Are they saying that, they feel safe with me? Like, what does nice mean to them? And so as a result of nice just being kind of this blanket word that doesn't mean, it means so much that it means nothing, I don't want to say I've taken offense to it, because I do think that it's true. I do think I'm nice. But I guess I oftentimes wish that people would break it down a little bit more for me. Like, okay, well, when you're saying I'm nice, like, what are you saying? So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to just really unpack this topic of the nice girl. And so embedded in the conversation around niceness, you also have to talk about, being a people pleaser, because that is definitely something that many nice people struggle with, which I'll get into a little later. Another thing is emotional intelligence. So oftentimes when people are saying that someone is nice, to some degree they're saying that that person who is nice has the capacity to be emotionally intelligent. And one of the things about emotional intelligence is interesting, because someone once told me that they think emotional intelligence is just BS, because the way they explained it was, it's almost like the way that, well, they were talking about white people, and it's kind of like, well, it's a way that, white people can say and do whatever to you, and you're just not supposed to react. You're just supposed to be calm and cool and collected and, just like shut up. And it was interesting because it's like, wow, I never actually thought about emotional intelligence in that way. But, and I would extend it beyond white people. I would extend it to say, emotionally intelligent is, someone could perceive it as the idea that anybody could do or say anything, and it's just this idea that you're supposed to, again, keep your composure. So again, I'm just trying to give different examples. I think nice people are usually, the perception is that they're agreeable, they are open, and also, some people may see nice people as being passive. Now, of course, all of those things can be true, at the same time. Nice people, though, also can be firm. Nice people can be direct. Nice people can be, clear. They can use candor. They can have solid boundaries. So, again, when people say that I'm nice, it's like, okay, what do you really mean by that? Um, so just a little story. I remember being in I want to say it was the seventh grade, and I've always been, I guess, somewhat of a high achiever, someone who earned pretty good grades, and I remember seeing a group of young people who kind of, and this probably has less to do with nice and more to do with just being productive. But I remember wanting to fit in and wanting to do what the popular kids, so to speak, were doing. And what the popular kids were doing they were not doing their work. They were, rebellious and talking in class when they weren't supposed to. And the big thing that stood out to me was that they didn't do their work. Like, they would sit in class and just like do nothing when they were supposed to be reading or writing or whatever we were supposed to be doing. And so I remember thinking, so that's what it takes to be popular. That's what it takes to fit in. Let me try it. So I forcefully did not do any work for, I don't know, it might have been for a few weeks. I can't remember, but it was for a considerable enough time to the point where I actually earned C's and maybe even a couple D's, definitely C's on my report card. And, the funny thing is I actually had to put forth so much effort to do nothing. It was just like the most awkward and uncomfortable thing ever. It was like, okay, I'm just going to sit here. And I remember the teacher asking me like, okay, are you okay? Like, you don't want to do the assignment? What happened? What's going on? And even when I got my report card, I just remember feeling so much shame and embarrassment around the fact that I allowed myself to do something like that, knowing that I can do way better, knowing that I was just really trying to fit in. And I even remember whatever teacher it was at the time, kind of like, I can't remember what was said, but the sentiment was very much like, this is unfortunate. And that was enough to kind of help me to get it together and just realize that, that's just not for me. I need to be me. I need to do, so then I turned things around and started doing my work again and got my grades up and, everything was fine. But I think back to that moment because it was like I had to try so hard to not be nice. And by nice, I'm using it loosely, but to do what all the rebels were doing, I had to actually put forth so much effort to do that. And with every fiber in my being, I actually did not want to do that. And so I just kind of think back to that. And, and I think there have been various periods in my life where I questioned my own, niceness. Because it's like, okay, well, like there's books about women and how we need to be bees. I'm not going to say the word. This is YouTube and I don't curse, but how we need to be bees. That's how we get results, And, I questioned that. I'm like, maybe that is how you get result, because for a while in my life, I guess I felt in certain areas that maybe things weren't progressing enough or I didn't have some of the things that I saw other people getting. And I questioned, well, maybe I need to be a bee. Maybe I need to be more of a bee. But ultimately, I decided to just continue to be me, continue to embrace myself, as challenging as sometimes it may be. And, and I think one of the things we need to ask ourselves is, if we need to ask ourselves, are we getting results? Are we getting the results that we want in our lives? And we really need to sit with that, because if I really think about it, have I always liked the way I dealt with the situation? Are there situations that I wish I can go back to and maybe, be a little bit more firm, be a little bit more direct, or, whatever it might be? Of course. But I think that we all have that, even the quote unquote, angry Black woman, so to speak, has those moments where she also may feel like, or I should say the boss bee, even the boss bee can think about times where it's like, oh, I really should have checked this person here, or I really should have had better boundaries there. It's not just the nice girls who look back and think that there are certain things that they could have done differently. But overall, when I think about, okay, have you had results in your life? Because that's really what it's about. I mean, I think a lot of the tough shell, the hard exterior that many of us may have, oftentimes it's because maybe you've been let down and you want to, make sure you keep a wall up so nobody can, hurt you again or whatever it is, think about being tough on the outside, or maybe you're tough on the inside too. And the way you respond in the world, cursing someone out, as an example, as opposed to asking them, a question that might make them reconsider, however they're treating you, or, whatever it is. I mean, there's always different ways that we can respond in situations. So are you getting the results that you want? Now, the funny thing is that results, everyone has a different outcome that they want. Some people want respect, and they think, okay, well, if everybody's afraid of me and if people don't want to approach me and say anything, then yeah, I have respect, and therefore those are my results. I can't say that those are the results. I mean, do I want respect? Of course. Do I want people to be afraid of me? No. I know and I believe that some people do feel a sense of safety with me because of the fact that I try my best. I'm not perfect, obviously, but I try my best to maintain a, pretty non-judgmental demeanor. And I think that does allow other people to then let their guard down a little bit more. If I'm open, that encourages other people to also be open. And the funny thing is, I actually don't experience a lot of negativity, and I'm just of the mindset that if you put out into the world, whatever energy you're putting out in the world, whatever that might be, the behaviors, that you exhibit toward others, all of that, you get that back, right? So if I'm putting out positive energy and uplifting others, and, and even in times where I may not be, the happiest by what someone said or what someone's doing my best to address it in a way that I would want to be addressed, or in a way that's not degrading. You know what I'm saying? Because, we all make mistakes. And I know that if I did or said something that someone didn't like, I would not want them to go off on me, unless it was that bad. But I would prefer them to either pull me aside, or, again, there's different ways, people can ask certain questions. Like, you can pose a question in a way that will make someone kind of really think deeply about what it is they're saying or doing. So again, there's a lot of different ways, but ask yourself, what kind of results are you getting in your life? And like, are those the results you want? What I can say is I feel like, again, like I said, I haven't always gotten the results, but I think, how do I say this? Time has shown that who I've always have been, and sort of maintaining that nice person, even when it wasn't easy to do, I believe has been to my benefit. There are very few things that I can think about that I don't have in my life currently. Now, granted, can I say that I've always had these things? Have these things always been present? No. But I personally believe that my life is a testament of, if you don't lose heart, if you keep pushing, keep striving for authenticity, keep seeking the truth, keep trying. Again, not saying that I'm perfect in any way, but I'm constantly trying to figure out various ways that I can improve, and also very invested in being kind to others. Now, some people may perceive that as being fake, or perceive it as, some people may not be interested in that pathway because they might say, oh, well, you need to be more direct. You need to be more aggressive. And you know, and could I be more direct? Of course. Could I be maybe more aggressive in certain ways? Probably so. But I guess the point that I'm making is I see the results from the way that I have, you know, treated others. And I believe that I've gotten that back. And like I said, I sometimes I sit and I think, I'm like, wow, there's not one thing that I really desire to have right now. Like, I feel like I have almost everything that I have ever wanted. And I think that that speaks to character in terms of my own character, how I've treated others. And even just from the smallest thing, like, I remember I would always say, like, in my mind, I would say to myself, oh, I hope when I go to the store, I can find, like, a black dress and, I don't know, and, you know, a yellow blazer or whatever it is, right? I would just think of something random. Or I hope I can find a dress with flowers, with a strap over here. And I would literally go to the store, to the mall or what have you, and find almost exactly what I was thinking of, which is crazy. Like, it's insane. Another example would be just like, you know, even with customer service, you know, oftentimes, you know, in fact, something actually happened today. I mean, there's so many moments where I can get a nasty attitude. I could react in a way where I could demean someone, especially, you know, when you're dealing with customer service, if the issue is not my fault. Like, if it's 100% the company's fault, oh, I mean, yeah, of course I could be a jerk. I could say all kinds of mean things and call people stupid or whatever it is. But, like, why? Like, you know, because oftentimes even customer service, they are public facing, but it doesn't mean that it's even their fault. You know, whatever the issue is could go beyond them. It could go all the way to management, someone I may never even interact with. So the point is, I don't have a vested interest in making other people feel bad and about themselves. And therefore, I try to live my life in a way where I honor that. Now, again, you know, there's always room for improvement. I'm at the point in the video now where I have to look at my notes. So think about, is the toughness that you exhibit, is it a facade or is it real? So we all know living in America could be very dog eat dog. It's all about, you know, getting ahead. But I really don't think there's any competition. When you're being you and you're being authentic, there's no competition. And then also too, like, especially for me, as I, you know, become a second-time author, as I make videos and all the things that I want to do moving forward, I am my own brand, essentially. You know, my brand is Neka Onilifor. And, you know, the reality is that people, when they invest in your book or your business or whatever it is, they're kind of investing in your energy. And, you know, an example would be, so I try my best to buy as much as I can, you know, from Black folks when I can. And so there's a guy that I go to at the mall. He sells shea butters and soaps and oils. And I always get my soaps and my shea butter and my oil from him. Now, granted, I can go anywhere and get soap, shea butter, and oil. I mean, he has some great products, but I can go anywhere. But I like to go back to him not only because he is a Black business owner, but also because of his energy, also because of the interaction. He is very nice. He is very kind, or at least from what I know of him. And again, so you have to think about that. We are all our own brands. And so whatever we do, however we respond to things, it can improve our brand or it can tear down our brands. So we need to be thinking in that way. What else? So, you know, I also have to highlight the fact that I'll be getting married at 41. And so I'm 40 right now. And this just goes into the whole nice girl finishing last, that whole narrative, you know, this idea of finishing last. And I understand what that means, and I get why people say that. I know in the Bible it says, you know, the last will be first. And, you know, I was thinking about this one day too, and in terms of, do I feel like because I'm so nice and because I've been nice all of my life, that I finished last in some way? And what I will say is, I think, you know, it may have taken me, maybe I have taken the long route. And sometimes I think when you are a nice person, it kind of comes with the territory. So that may be true to some degree. You know, maybe on some level, nice people do finish last. But my thing is like, what's wrong with that? You know, what is wrong with that? Like, what is wrong with, I mean, again, I highlight the fact that I'll be 41 getting married. You know, could I have gotten married at 27 or 28? You know, I don't know. But if I was a boss bee, would I be married? Would I have been married at 25? I'm not sure. So I think that there could be some truth to this idea that as a nice person, I mean, yeah, sometimes you do, you know, let people, like literally and figuratively, let people get in front of you, or, you know, there's certain kind of behaviors that go along. Because oftentimes, you know, and again, I know this is not true in every case, but oftentimes, like, nice people may not always be the most competitive people, you know. And I've never played like sports like that, but I've also never really been that competitive. And I know that that can be, you know, some people may see that as a negative quality. But it's never bothered me. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm fine with not being overly competitive, you know, because I believe that I've created my own lane for myself. And I don't think that I need to compete with other people or other women, or, you know, try to step on someone's toes for an opportunity. I just don't believe in that. And again, like I said, I have everything I want, you know, for the most part. So that's that. And I also just think that, you know, looking back to like high school, and, you know, I was, you know, bullied because of my hair. This is, you know, just one example. I had natural hair at the time, and I used to, you know, like get it pressed out and stuff like that, but it would still poof up. And, you know, some of the people called my hair nappy. And even when I went to college, it was still like this thing. All my hair was nappy and this, and I hate using that word, but that was just what was put upon me. And some people are eating their words. You know, it's like, I mean, I just believe, again, whatever you want to say is going on with this, but like, I love my hair. It's amazing. You know, I love my locks, and that's definitely going to be other videos that I'll probably do. But the point is, sometimes I think it's not about cursing. Like if I could go back and curse everybody out, would I? Probably so. You know, if I can go back and like really just go in on people, yeah, maybe I would. But there's also a lot of power in like just living your life and showing up and being authentically you and letting people eat their words. Like, look at my hair. I mean, there are people who literally spent time laughing at me because I was natural. And now, mind you, I was a little bit of a pioneer in the sense of, you know, I was, before the whole natural hair movement, I was wearing my hair natural. So that's a whole nother video. But the point is that actually happened. Your girl, the nice girl, was teased. And now I don't feel like I have to get on social media and like blast everybody and no, I just show up as me with my beautiful hair and just, you know, laughing all the way to the hair salon. You know what I mean? So, so if you're nice like me, you may not get ahead as quickly, and that's okay. You may take your time, feel your way to where you want to be, but you'll get there. And I'll tell you, if this is what finishing last looks like, if this is what finishing last feels like, sign me up. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.